that you have joined us today to be able to have this conversation and talk about people who are crossing your boundaries. There are 4 different action steps that I wanted to talk to you about, and then 3 little tidbits as to why this is even important, because all of this impacts your mind, body, and soul. So it's not just people are crossing your boundaries, disrespecting you. It impacts you from a physical, emotional, and or spiritual perspective as well. So let's jump right in. Okay, number 1, if people are crossing your boundaries, you have to know who you are and whose you are. That means making sure you know yourself and know what your actual boundaries are. Give thought to it. Give thought to it. If you haven't given thought to it, then people are going to treat you however they want. So know yourself and know your boundaries. Like I said before, I always say, know who you are and whose you are. I know who I am. My light comes from my Heavenly Father, so I know whose I am. And who I am, it's who He says I am. Along with that, I am a human being. I have blood running through me just like you. I am a person with feelings and thoughts just like you. Therefore, I deserve just as much respect and common courtesy as you do and everyone else does. That is a basic. That is a bare minimum expectation. So I know who I am and whose I am. I know what my limits are. I encourage you guys to think about what your limits are, so that way you won't have an issue. Number 2, along with knowing yourself and knowing what your boundaries are, knowing what your limits are, you also want to state what those limits are. State your boundaries clearly. Now you may be thinking, okay, that goes without saying. Well, no, actually, really it doesn't. There are so many people, when their boundaries are crossed, they will get upset. Their feelings may be hurt. They may go in a tantrum. They may give you the silent treatment. They may not call you for a while and come back when they're okay now. They may expect for you to know, right? As if you're a mind reader. There are so many different actions that people take instead of the basic one, the most important one, which is to state your boundary clearly. Again, we're not mind readers. And I don't encourage all of those other actions that I just mentioned. Those are actually unhealthy ways of communicating. So I don't recommend those. Just simply state what your boundary is. Okay? So number 3, after you state your boundary, then you want to make sure that you state clearly what the consequences are, what your actions will be if they continue to cross your boundary. Or if this is the first time, and hopefully it's the first time, you're making it very clear what your consequence or what their consequence is going to be. Your action is going to be XYZ. Okay? Let me give you an example. If someone speaks to you in a tone that you find completely disrespectful, and it's at a level that you would not expect for anyone to speak to you just because they are angry. Now, it's not to minimize their anger or their feelings, but there's a level of respect when it comes to communicating that you expect. So you can let someone know, I don't appreciate this kind of conversation. I don't appreciate this tone of voice. I don't appreciate you speaking to me in this manner, because I will never speak to you in that manner, and I don't expect to be treated that way either. If it continues, I'm going to have to back away, because this is not the kind of friendship, relationship, working relationship that I want in my life. This is not the kind of vibe and energy I want around me. Okay? Just simply state it clearly. If it's a non-negotiable, then you let them know what that non-negotiable is. You let them know what that boundary is, and your reaction is going to be, that is not something I want in my life, and I will step away from this friendship. I respect how you do things, but I'm telling you what I need and what my actions are. Okay? Those are good examples. Okay, so know yourself, know your limits. 2, state your boundary. State it clearly. Number 3, state your consequence and what that action is going to be if they do it again. And then number 4, if they continue to cross that boundary after you've already told them, then that first time afterwards, you have to respond accordingly. You respond accordingly by doing exactly what you said you were going to do. Whatever that action was that you said that you would do, you have to do it. Not because you're trying to save face or you're trying to prove a point. No, there are so many more reasons why you need to make sure that you carry out exactly what it is that you said, because you want them to know that you mean it. You want them to know that you respect yourself, right? You also want to care for yourself, You want to care for yourself. So it's self-care, okay? And it's also stress management. So those are 4 different reasons right there alone why you need to make sure that you're carrying out what you said that you were going to do. And if you don't, you go back, they're not going to believe you. The next time you state a boundary, they're not going to believe you, they're not going to respect you, and they're not going to think about that and take you into consideration moving forward. You don't want that. So if you say that you're going to have a consequence after you state your boundary, please make sure that you do so for your own self-care, right? For your own respect and for your own peace. Now, let's go into a couple of tidbits why this is so important, right? I talked about self-care. I talked about self-management. I mentioned that because that too is a core part of boundaries and making sure you state your boundaries and understanding and letting them understand there are consequences to crossing those boundaries. It's important because it impacts your mind, body, and your soul. That mind, body, and soul needs to be aligned at all times, right? It needs to be balanced. And when it's out of balance, example, someone crosses your boundary, you're thinking about it, you're bothered by it, you're impacting your mind. Maybe someone did something and it hurt your heart, your feelings. Maybe it hurt your soul. You then are out of balance. Your mind, body, and soul are not aligned. They should always be aligned. So that is from an emotional, a spiritual, and a physical perspective as well. So make sure that you keep your mind, body, and soul aligned. You keep them balanced. So that's why it's important to state what your people crossing your boundaries, what the consequences are, what it is that you don't like, and then act on it if they continue to do it. A second reason why it's important is a matter of self-respect. Respect your own self, value yourself, honor yourself by not allowing people to cross boundaries, especially boundaries that you have clearly stated that you did not like, you did not want in your life, or you don't want that kind of vibe in your around you, and you've stated what the consequences are. That is so very important because God loves you, and I know, I'm going to say I know, not that I hope, I know that you love yourself. You love yourself, you respect yourself, you value yourself. So therefore, honor yourself. Use your voice and state what it is that you don't like, don't respect, don't want in your life, and what the consequence is going to be. I mentioned if you don't, what that means. Another thing that means is you not stating how they crossed boundaries. You are actually putting them ahead of you. Or if you do state what a boundary is, but you don't keep your actions a consequence, you don't carry that out, you come running back, well, you again have put that person ahead of your own self. That's not respect. It's not self-respect. It's not valuing you. It's not honoring yourself. So you want to make sure that you don't put anyone ahead of you other than your light, right? That's the only person that goes ahead of you. Now you may say your children as well. So we're going to talk about that really quick. But That is the third reason why this is so important. That impacts your mind, body, and soul when you don't respect yourself, when you don't value and honor yourself. Use your voice and speak up. You don't have to be disrespectful. You don't have to be rude. You don't have to be argumentative, right? But there are consequences to everything. In which, by the way, if you step back to something that's not a non-negotiable, but you don't want this to be a part of your friendship, stepping back means I am happy to speak with you when you come to me. I'm happy to engage with you. And I will do so with a smile. I will do so authentically, but it doesn't mean that I have to reach out to you. I won't do that to myself. That's setting yourself up, right? That has nothing to do with self-respect. So when it comes to your children, this is number 4, why this is so important. Your children, of course, they are everything to you, and you would do anything for your children. But there's something that you want to take in consideration. Of course, you feed them, you clothe them, you love them, right? You make sure they have food and shelter and water. You care for them, and you want to make sure that they are sound emotionally, right? Well, it's the same thing when it comes to people crossing their boundaries. Their minds, bodies, and souls also have to be aligned. Now, when you think about it, when a child does something wrong, you may punish them. They may go on punishment for a week, or you may put them in the corner if they are younger. Whatever the case is, there are consequences to when your children do something wrong. And that's your way of teaching them. They have to know that there's consequences because there are things that they should not be doing. Well, your children need to do and carry out the exact same thing. They need to use their voice. They have to have enough confidence for themselves to know that this isn't right. This doesn't make me feel good, and I am letting you know I don't like this. And if you keep on, then I'm not going to be your friend. Now, if they're a little bit older and they're teenagers, they can take the same route that you do. Have a constructive conversation, a clear conversation, a respectful conversation, and clearly state what that boundary is and what the consequences would be if they continue to do that, because they respect themselves. They love themselves and value themselves and honor themselves. That's exactly what you want your children to do. They can only do that when they see you doing that, because that's where they're learning it from, right? So definitely make sure that you are exercising self-care and stress management and balancing your mind, body, and soul for yourself as well as your children, so their minds, body, and souls can be balanced as well. This is so important for our little ones and our teenagers and our young adults, because think about it, our teenagers and our young ones, when someone is crossing their boundaries, if they don't speak up and they continue to be treated that way, that is impacting their present moment. That's taking their mind, body, and soul out of alignment. We don't want that for the little ones, right? For the teenagers, for example, they can have a constructive conversation, a respectful conversation, but it's still impacting their present moment. They aren't adults. They are still learning. We all learn every single day of our life, but they are not adults, and there are still so many experiences they have to go through to grow into who they are. But if they know who their light is, and of course, they love you as their parents, they love themselves and value themselves, so they need to speak up, because it not only impacts their present moment, it's going to impact their future and how they view themselves in the future. So those are the things that I recommend that you do. The first 4, making sure you know yourself, making sure that you know who you are and whose you are, and you state what your boundaries are, because you already know what your boundaries are. So you're going to state them, then you're going to state the consequence. Then you're also going to make sure that you respond accordingly if they continue to cross boundaries. And it's so important for you to do so. Again, for the 4 main reasons: your mind, body, and soul alignment, your own peace of mind, your self-respect, valuing yourself and honoring yourself, not putting other people ahead of you because they are not more important than you. And for our children, to make sure that they are aligned mind, body, and soul in the present moment as well as in their future. So I hope this was helpful for you. Thank you so much. And again, be sure to like, share, and subscribe.